Hello and welcome to a very special How I Paint Things. Today we're going to cover the Ogryns, which is my favourite of the sort of abhuman regiments for the Astra Militarum. These guys are a lot of fun. They are a plastic unit now, they never used to be. There was ages where we had no Ogryns at all. And finally you've got the really cool kit, which you can make either Ogryns or Bulgryns out of. The painting is going to be much the same for either of them, which is why I've chosen to use the Ogryn in this instance. But if you have a Bugman, then you're just going to paint some more armor plates. Really, there's not much of a difference. As always, I'm going to link all of the paints in the description below. So without any further mucking around, let's get started. Now I've started from a primer of Xandri Dust. Now that's going to work very well for most of the colours that we're going to paint over the top of it. Nice mid-tone sort of beige, and if you happen to be painting Imperial Guard already, chances are you've already got it. Now I'm starting out here with a little bit of Bugman's Glow, just a wee bit of water mixed into the paint to make sure it's going to flow off, and you'll see how easily this goes on. So because the skin is going to be the largest area of colour, you want to start with that, and any mistakes we make we're going to sort of gradually tidy up as we go. So you don't need to be too careful about how you apply this. Take your time. You might even find that this goes on in one coat, but I'll let you guys be the judge of that. Now I'm using, this is one of my army painted brushes, this is the regiment brush, but in honesty I would probably recommend, if you've got a, medium shade brush that still keeps a point, you may find that actually helps you get this skin tone on much quicker. Otherwise, medium base brush, whatever you've got, that works. As you can see, that goes on nice and smooth. Nice big flat areas of skin, real simple to paint. Now I've got Caliban Green, and I've switched up to my medium shade brush to show you, just how easily you can use this as an ordinary brush. It's all bristles. We're going to go ahead and paint his trousers. Now, you'll probably see some of the base coat, so the primer rather, showing through. You see a little bit of streakiness. So we're going to go over all of his trousers, give it about 5 or so minutes to dry, and then we will go over with another coat. Make sure this is nice and solid. Now with the second coat applied, you'll see we've got a nice solid colour. Now I've got Deathguard Green, and we're going to do his vest. Now you could honestly do this just about anything. Go ahead, grab yourself some Corax Flesh, even white, or just leave it Xandri Dust, whatever you like the look of. A quick coat of this, maybe a second, and it's all very simple. Don't worry too much if you do end up getting a little on his skin, because base coats, we can tidy those up fairly easily later on. Now it doesn't look like much on camera, but I promise in person that is a much nicer green. Now I did get a little bit on his chin there, you'll see, but we're going to leave that until later. I tend to find you'll find it faster if you leave all of your little cleanup stages to the last step, because rather than going back and dipping into your old paint and blah blah blah, just leave that till last. So what I've got now is my Dryad Bark, and we're going to do all of the leather details. I find it's easier to do these at this stage, so that I can be a little sloppier with my armor plates later. And these are a little bit lighter on the box, but I tend to think, I don't know, Ogryns ought to be a little darker, grimier, and we can use their equipment to kind of sell that. So anything you want to be leather, don't forget they've got the straps around their wrists holding some of those armor plates on as well. Go ahead now with some Dryad Bark. Now I'm not sure if you can see it from this angle, but I did then get some Dryad Bark on his skin too. So if I had gone around and just, tidied up the green and then hit it with some brown, I would be pretty annoyed. But I'm not worried, because I'm going to fix those later. What I've got now, I've got some Retributor armor, and we're going to do in those bits that are going to be gold or brass. So let's just quickly dot those in. We'll do the big shell casings in his drum magazine here too. This bit on the back of his wrist plate doodad. Let's go in now. Any gold or brass. Now since it came out, Iron Hand Steel has been one of my favourite colours. This is really nice. What I would suggest is just go over all of your metal areas with this. And you'll tend to find, once this is shaded, that you don't really need to highlight it. which is what I'm looking for. You can go ahead and use Ironbreaker, so not Ironbreaker, Lead Belcher, but this is one that I really like, and I suggest if you have got access to it, go ahead and pick up your Iron Hand Steel if you get the chance. So now all of the metal details, let's just fill them in. Now with both of those metallic colours applied, he's starting to finally come together. What I've got now is my Caliban Green, same as we would for the armour on our guardsmen. And let's just go for the armour plates. So up on his shoulder here, now bearing in mind these are optional, but I would suggest they look pretty cool. They help break up some of the area of skin. All you need to do, cover that over. Don't worry too much if you get the Aquila here, the skull wingling thingamajigger. You'll probably find that you do need to come back and give this a second coat though. So any armor plates, Caliban Green right now. Now to me, there is nothing that says goofy unit that was cooked up in the mid-90s like red weapon casings. So we've got here Mephiston Red, and no big surprise here. Let's just go over all of the areas on the weapon casing. Oh, isn't that something? I love Mephiston Red, and I love these big goofy guns, eh? Check out the box art if you need any pointers on where this ought to go. Just take your time, and let's fill that in now. Oh my goodness. Man, oh man, that is something. I love those big goofy things so much, eh? I've got now some Corax White, and all I'm going to do is just this little icon up on his shoulder pad here. And then we're going to blacken his boots and just do the tidy up stage. So I'm going to finish all of this off camera, and then we can get on to the next stage. Okay, boots are black, his Aquila is white, and I remembered this fella has got a big old tooth sticking out the side of his face there. I've gone ahead and used just a little bit of Rakkarth flesh to colour that in. Now comes my favourite part. I've got a big old brush. I've given my Corax Earthshade a really good shake. Let's get in there and just start applying this all over the model. You can be fairly generous. You just want to make sure that you are working it in to all of the recesses so that you don't miss any opportunities for shading. So let's go around now. Yeah, I love this stage, eh? It's my favourite part. Go ahead, fill in your whole model with the Corax Earthshade, and give it probably about 30-40 minutes to dry. Now obviously there's still some work to do, but what a difference the shade makes, you know. At the risk of repeating myself, isn't it just magic? What I'm going to do though is I want that metal to be a little bit darker, and I've got here some non-oil and my medium shade brush. Let's just go ahead and we'll apply that again over all of the metal areas. So we've dulled them down with the Corax Earthshade. Now we're going to make them even darker. Now that that black shade is dried, we've got a little bit of difference in the shading between the uniform and his gear and the metal, and I think that works quite well. What we'll do now is most of his skin, and for this I've got Caliban Flesh tone. What we're going to do is paint over most of the areas of skin. So starting on his arm here, for example, let's just go ahead and paint in most of this until we come to any gaps or sort of natural shading. So here, you see there's these creases in the muscles. You want to paint and leave the darker color in the recess, like so. Now this is probably the most time-consuming method of doing this. To be perfectly honest, you could go ahead, get out the old Eldar flesh and dry brush the skin, but I think on models that have so much of it, you're really going to get a much better result if you do spend that time and paint it in, let's say, the classic way. So go around now, and again, if you need any pointers, you can feel free to follow the box. Paint in this Caliban Flesh tone over most of his skin. Now, that is a stage which is going to reward some patience. Even, I'm fairly experienced. That took me about sort of 12 to 15 minutes to get a skin tone that I was happy with. I blocked in all of the areas that I wanted to be Cadian flesh toned first, and you'll see there are some slight streaking in some of those areas where I've left just the first coat. Then those more solid areas, that was a second coat over the top. This is a technique which is much better suited if you're batch painting your Ogryns, so doing, 3 or 4 of them at a time, but I think it's pretty cool. It does reward patience, so have a play around with that, see if you like it. What I've got now is some Kislev Flesh, and we're just going to pick out some of the details along his face, back of his knuckles and such. Some people really like to highlight the muscles, and I don't know. It's a personal thing. I don't really see the need for it. But if you do, try and follow along the edges of some of these areas of colour. I'm never really 100% certain what looks the best, so I'm just going to do his elbow, back of his arm there, and I'm going to concentrate on his face and hands. Now this time it was my turn to actually go ahead and have a look at the box, get some ideas for how I might use a little bit more highlighting on the muscles. And I think, I would probably need to practice at that a little bit more. It's not something that I would ordinarily do when knocking out an army, but you can have a play with it too, see what you like the look of. What I've got now is just a little Troll Slayer orange. Now what I'm going to do is I've thinned this out like I normally would, and just using my medium layer brush, we're going to lightly tap in the sides and corners of this ridiculous red gun. Now you can do as much or as little of this as you like. I'm just concentrating on towards the middle of and the corners of these flatter panels, using the edge of my brush wherever possible. Some of these areas, of course, you're going to have to get in with the tip and just take your time. If you do make any mistakes at this stage, you can go ahead, get out your Mephiston Red again, and just block in that area where you might have gone a little overboard. Now we'll grab just a little bit of Lauren Forest, and we'll do the same thing along just a couple of areas on these green panels. So let's get, for example, this one here. And again, you can use the edge of your brush just to pick out some of those edges. Same too, you can even do it on the slightly curved edges with a bit of practice. Just take your time, run your brush back and forth until you start to see paint hitting, and then don't push down any further. There we go. Now just a few creases and edges on the clothing you can do with Nurgling Green, and I'd suggest you don't need very much of this. Now the last highlight I'm going to do is Knight Questor Flesh. I'm going to do this over some of the areas of leather. I'll be real with you, I'm not going to bother highlighting his trousers, because frankly they're not really a focal point of the miniature. If you wanted to though, what would I use with that green? I actually do not know off the top of my head. You could even try highlighting them again with Caliban Green, to be honest. If you look on the Citadel Paint app or on the Games Workshop site, there will be some suggestions for how you can highlight Caliban Green. You don't need a huge amount of this Knight Questor Flesh. It's a really nice colour for highlighting leather as well as skin, so bear that in mind. If you want something a little more natural than something like Gawthor Brown, just a couple of little lines of this will help sell that look. Now, because he's so large, the temptation is always going to be to pick this fella up by the miniature. So just reaching down and grabbing him like that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and varnish him because, I'm pleased with that paint scheme. I don't want any of it to rub off during play. So let's go ahead and give him a spray of Munitorum varnish. And then we'll slap a quick base on him so that he matches the rest of my Imperial Guard. And there we have it. Our Ogryn is complete. And if his base looks a little dark compared to how I normally do it, the army that he is going to be joining was started in 2003, so tastes have changed a little, but I wanted to colour match him. So the lesson I would say, if there is one, is that you shouldn't let the size of a miniature put you off giving it a shot. The techniques are ultimately exactly the same, whether you're painting them on a single infantryman or on something bigger like this. So hopefully, guys, something there was interesting to you. I know a few of you have been asking about Ogryns previously, and I'm glad to finally put that one into the bank. So, as always, any questions or anything, feel free, drop them in the old comment box below. My Twitter and Facebook are both linked there too. So thank you very much for your time, and you all enjoy the rest of your day.